Welcome to Red Ribbon Remembrance for World AIDS Day 2020, brought to you by Trade Sexual Health in partnership with Leicester LGBT Centre and collectively as Leicester Digital Pride. My name is Makinda Chahal and I'm the Senior Health Promotion Worker here at Trade. This year we're having to do things a bit differently when it comes to World AIDS Day. As a HIV prevention charity, World AIDS Day is one of the biggest events in our calendar and acts as a constant reminder as to why Trade exists as a charity. Marking this year's World AIDS Day during another global pandemic also reminds us as individuals, communities, societies and citizens of the world that we all have a part to play when it comes to supporting one another, challenging misconceptions and above all, standing above fear. From one pandemic to another, these times will shape us and we have the power to determine how. During the course of this evening, we will hear readings from Trade volunteers, reflections from community members on what World AIDS Day means to them, listen to an original short story entitled Red Ribbon by Josh Whittingham, and as always, the candle lighting ceremony in remembrance of those who fought their battles of HIV and AIDS in the past in order to build the legacies and technologies of today. Have your candles ready on time for that time. If you would like to get involved online with this year's event, you can share your photos and videos of you lighting your candles, wearing your red ribbons and anything red by joining the local campaign using the hashtag LeicesterWAD2020 and also the global campaign by using the hashtag WAD2020. Our social media team will be on standby to share your media to help raise awareness of HIV and AIDS. Thank you for taking time out to join us and we hope that you can learn, share and remember together for this, the 32nd World AIDS Day.
Hello, my name is Salim Khalifa and I'm the Director for Trade Sexual Health. I'd like to welcome you all to this year's event. Trade since its inception has always and will continue to celebrate World AIDS Day to bring together the LGBT communities, our allies and friends and people to raise awareness of HIV and remember all those people who are affected. We often forget about the hundreds of people who donated their bodies to science to develop HIV medication, the women who volunteered their time to look after people dying when their families had disowned them. World AIDS Day is a time of reflection and celebrate how far we have come from the early death messages to living a happy and healthy life. Today we celebrate many great things, but it's also a pledge to what more can be done for those people who still face stigma and prejudice and to working towards eradicating HIV forever. Now in its 32nd year, this year's theme, Global Solidarity and Shared Responsibility, has never been more important with the current pandemic that has affected us all. I would like to thank Makinda, Brad and Rocco for organising this year's event. This year's Red Remembrance event is different. What will remain the same is the essence of coming together, be it remotely, and lighting a candle of remembrance for a loved one.
We at Expression Leicester have witnessed the changing nature of HIV and AIDS over years of our operation. Whether that's been from treatment, prevention or testing, we are always aiming to advocate for some more open and accessible means of all the above. Last year, we were lucky enough to run a rapid HIV testing station at our university, which gained a lot of attention from our counterparts at other universities, University Executive and Leicester Student Union. In our group, we have a diverse range of students, and one student shares his experience of testing as follows. HIV testing is easy. I regularly get tested using either the Leicester Sexual Health Service or free online STI test kits. In the current climate, I've been using the home kits where a simple finger prick blood sample is enough to tell me if I'm positive for HIV or syphilis. It's so simple and I recommend it to all my friends. Other than that, it's a simple blood test from your arm at a clinic where results are often back in less than a week. At Expression Leicester, we also welcome the news that PrEP is to be made available on the NHS, and we see this as a huge step forward to preventing transmission. This breakthrough will make lives of couples feel much safer if one tests positive for HIV and is then able to transmit it. We also see this as a really good starting step for HIV education. Many people that we work with who are new to the group think that if you have HIV, you can always transmit it. But as we know, with the correct HIV treatment, the risk of transmission is actually very negligible. Therefore, with PrEP making headline news, we really hope that this will trigger a wave of progressive HIV and AIDS education, which we will continue to contribute to regarding HIV and AIDS themselves, treatment, transmission, prevention, and living with HIV and AIDS.
For the first part of this evening's event, we're going to hear 2 readings from 2 dedicated volunteers at Trade. Although we haven't been able to have as many volunteering opportunities during 2020, our team have remained on standby, ready and waiting, and we can't wait to invite them all back to Trade in 2021. We will also be having an incredible audio short written by Josh Whittingham, especially for this event.
A Simple Red Ribbon by Adam Henson. A simple red ribbon worn with pride, to show you hold such love inside. For all those we lost as the years gone by, but still the tears fill our eyes. What a waste of such beautiful lives, a little less colourful now you've gone out of our life. We place our hands upon our hearts, memories come flooding back right from the start. Seems like yesterday, I want you back. I want to feel your touch just one more time. Please remember, you'll always be mine. I light a candle for you on this day every year, and everyone else whose loss was very dear. It's not much, a simple red bow, but it's my way to show I'll always love you, but that you know. A simple red ribbon worn with pride, to show you hold such love inside.
Hi Uncle Colin, it's Matt. Can I come stay with you for a few days please? Mum and Dad are arguing again. Hi Uncle Colin, thanks for coming to pick me up.
No problem, hop in mate. Are you alright, Matt?
Yeah, I'm alright now, I'm out of the house.
They at it again?
Yeah.
Well, you're always welcome at mine. I'll tell you what, why don't we go out and grab some lunch first?
Thanks Uncle, I appreciate it.
That's alright, it's what families are for. I'm sure things will settle down soon enough, you'll see. Can I have a full English, please? What are you having, Matt?
I'll have avocado on toast, please.
Oh, thanks, love. God, you kids eat the strangest things. I'll never understand it. You're very quiet today, Matt. Is there anything you want to talk about? You know you can talk to me, don't you?
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Uncle. I just don't want to talk about it right now. Hey, what's that red ribbon you're wearing?
What, this?
Yeah, I've seen people wearing pink ones for breast cancer, right? But I've never seen a red one before.
Oh, it's for World AIDS Day. It takes place every year on December the 1st. It's a day to show support to those living with HIV and to remember all those who've sadly... You don't need to look so horrified.
Sorry.
What do you know about HIV and AIDS?
Not much to be honest.
What do they teach you in schools these days? You know I'm living with HIV, right?
No.
Your mum never told you? Typical. You don't need to look so uneasy. You can't catch anything from me. I was diagnosed with HIV in 1987. The 80s were a strange time to be growing up for a young gay man. We first started hearing rumours of this new disease they'd found in the States in the early 80s, and before long it became a reality for us over here too. We all knew about AIDS, but we didn't really understand the difference between HIV and AIDS at first. I used to go to a lot of gay bars in the mid-80s. I used to see regular faces there that you'd recognise. But then, one day, they'd stop coming. And you'd ask around. They died. They used to call it the gay plague in the 80s. GRID. That's what it was first called in America. Gay-related immune deficiency. But of course, you don't have to be gay to get HIV. Unlike humans, HIV doesn't discriminate. People quickly began to realise that. There was a real panic around HIV and AIDS back then. People didn't understand how the disease spreads at first. The government had to be seen to be doing something. They made these terrifying adverts back in '87. I remember sitting, watching the telly with your mum and your gran when the advert came on. Here, listen to this.
There is now a danger that has become a threat to us all. It is a deadly disease and there is no known cure. The virus can be passed during sexual intercourse with an infected person. Anyone can get it, man or woman. So far, it's been confined to small groups, but it's spreading. So protect yourself. And read this leaflet when it arrives. If you ignore AIDS, it could be the death of you. So don't die of ignorance.
That's terrible. I can't imagine what that must have been like for you growing up.
I was 19 at the time. Same age you are now.
So, how did you find out you had HIV?
Well, I knew something wasn't right with me. I used to be quite large back in the day, but the weight was dropping off me like lightning. I'd sweat buckets every night, so much so that the bed was sodden. Everyone around me was worried, and I was too, deep down. So I went to see the doctor. I remember I was sitting in some dingy doctor's surgery in the middle of town. The bright clinical light was flickering. I can still hear the sound of the ticking clock in the background, counting down the seconds. I could see from the look on the doctor's face that something was wrong. He told me I had HIV. I think time froze in that moment, or at least that's what it felt like. A wave of thoughts and emotions washed over me, drowning me. I thought of all the people out there in the world having sex. There must have been loads, I'm sure. Why did it have to be me? Why was I the unlucky one? Why did I have to get HIV? It was terrifying. I felt like a leper, a threat. Back in '87, they gave me 6 to 8 weeks to live. My life flashed before my eyes there in the surgery. It was really hard to tell your grandma and your mum. They didn't even know I was gay, let alone that I'd HIV. It made coming out so much more difficult. It was like a double whammy. I told them that I was HIV positive first, and then I had to hit them with, "Oh yeah, and I'm gay too." They were strange, hard times.
So, how did you survive? Physically and mentally?
Well, it wasn't easy. You've got to take each thing as it comes, really. AIDS weakens your immune system. You don't actually die of HIV itself. You die of an AIDS-related illness because the disease weakens your immune system. So you've got to stop each problem that comes along before it becomes the fatal one. It could even be the common cold.
That must be so scary, to think even a cold could kill you.
For me, the worst part wasn't actually having HIV itself. It was watching other people around me getting the disease. The people I loved. I lost so many friends to AIDS back in the day. I went to an unnatural amount of funerals. I lost count of how many. That was the toughest part, mentally. But I wouldn't have gotten through it all without my friends around me. The gay community really rallied round each other. It brought us closer together, that shared experience. But things are so different these days. Science has developed so much. People living with HIV can take a couple of pills a day and live normal, healthy lives. And then there's PrEP.
What's PrEP?
It's a drug you can take to help reduce the risk of getting HIV. If you take it before being potentially exposed to HIV, it can block it if it enters your body. It means you don't have to worry about your partner's HIV status, if it's taken correctly, that is. It gives me hope for the future. But of course, we still don't have a vaccine for HIV. There is no cure.
You sound like a doctor.
Well, I've learnt a lot more about science after all these years of living with HIV. You can start to pick up on the lingo. And it's important to me, spreading the message and educating people about HIV and AIDS.
You're right. It's really important. Thanks for telling me all this, Uncle. I never knew any of this stuff before. It's mad to think you've survived one epidemic, and now we're all faced with another one.
I know. Some things just haven't changed. Coronavirus might be a different beast altogether, but people's reactions to it is just the same. The panic is still there, just like the early days of AIDS. With this coronavirus pandemic, you see all these people panic buying and stockpiling toilet roll and pasta and stuff. People are scared now of COVID-19 as they were of AIDS in the 80s. And the scapegoating is all too familiar. The way Trump calls COVID-19 the Chinese virus is just like how AIDS was called the gay plague at first. As I said before, HIV and AIDS don't discriminate. People do.
So anyone can get HIV?
Well, HIV spread through what we call high-risk activity. Condomless sex or sharing a needle. So if you're engaging in those activities, you could potentially get HIV. It doesn't matter what your race is or your gender or sexuality. I always say everyone should take an HIV test.
So, should I get myself tested for HIV then?
I definitely recommend it. I was a young gay man like you once, you know. I remember thinking I was invincible, and look where that led me.
What's it like though? I'm not gonna lie, it sounds a bit scary.
It's nothing to be worried about, honestly. You can get a rapid HIV test. It's just a small finger prick blood test, and you get the results back in minutes.
It's really that simple?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're right. I think it'd be a good idea to get myself tested. Will you come with me?
Of course. So when do you want to go?
Red Ribbon was written by Josh Whittingham. Uncle Colin was played by Andy Train and Matt by Jerome Denton. Produced by Jerome Whittingham for Trade Sexual Health and World AIDS Day 2020.
My name is Bliss and I'm a volunteer with Trade. I'm going to be reading a poem today called Moving On, written by Alan Murray for World AIDS Day. I am moving on, reaching toward my hopes and dreams. It has taken me far too long to reach this place, it seems. My fears may try to hold me back, to try and block my way. But with courage and faith in my heart, I will get there, come what may. The road will be a long one, and it may be rocky too, but when I reach this place in time, my dreams could all shine through. I am coming nearer to my goals, and my excitement grows. The plans I have made will soon be real, along with the destiny I chose. Though I have been tossed and turned in life's storms, I will surely see a brighter dawn. I'm no longer held back by my fears. I am finally moving on. Thank you very much.
We will now start our candle lighting ceremony to remember those brave individuals who lost their lives to HIV and AIDS in the past, as well as for those who cared for them right until they passed. please feel free to light your candles at home with us during this time. I'm now going to light this final candle to remember anyone who has lost a loved one during this year's coronavirus and to connect these two pandemics together with hope for the future. Thank you for joining us for that time. Now I will start my reading. The leaves are twirling and whirling as they whiz down from the trees. Carefree like a bird, not a worry in the world, I wish I was a leaf. To twirl and whirl in the wind, free like a bird, and settle where I like. I wish I was a scarlet red one, to represent me, the red of the ribbon, significant to HIV. To twirl and whirl, and not to be stigmatised. Oh, how free I would be, so as World AIDS Day dawns, may a new life awake. May all the stigma rot away, like the carpet of leaves that I tread on upon my secret world.
I think my motivation is again to sort of keep the conversation going, and by wearing the ribbon, more often than not, most years people will ask about it who maybe don't understand what it is or what it's for and what it represents. So for me, in the lead up to World AIDS Day, it's important to have that visibility, so you can have those conversations with people who don't know, or people who don't have the right information, or have some sort of different views perhaps, that you can open that conversation and build those bridges and have that dialogue.
So it gives me hope, but then it also gives me time to remember those at the beginning of the HIV and AIDS epidemic back in the 1980s who had, were on trials for different medications and drugs, which had horrific side effects, but also as well kind of helps me remember those who fought and paved the way for people like me today to be able to talk very openly and honestly about HIV, both within my personal life, but also within my professional life.
I think the future for many people is number one, is to say, HIV will no longer exist. It won't be there, but also, if that isn't the case, what I would hope that actually somebody who is living with HIV never ever experiences stigma towards that. Somebody who has got HIV, has no fear and understands and knows that if they do have HIV, they have all the support that they need. And actually, it's not a stigma, and all communities, regardless of gender, faith, or language, get the same level of support, and nobody is discriminated against because of their HIV status.
But I mean, just kind of increasing awareness and having, more people talk about HIV and AIDS, more people wearing the red ribbons, just that kind of taboo sort of lifted, because I do think it is still something that people don't necessarily talk about all the time or want to talk about, feel comfortable talking about.
I think there's a real sense of togetherness associated with World AIDS Day. It's a group of people coming together to have an open and honest conversation publicly about HIV and AIDS. It's a chance to inform and educate, which I think is really important. And being together in a group allows you to stand up and stand tall to stigma and discrimination. I think what we all hope for is the end of shame completely. So when I wear this red ribbon, all these things resonate with me, along with strength, courage, and resilience. And I wear it with pride.
Primary things about World AIDS Day and its history is opportunity for people to actually meet and get together. I remember going to meetings which were held in secret with people with HIV and them talking about how healthcare workers treated them, let alone the rest of the population, and we were meant to be informed. Living people, because they were known to have a diagnosis, being moved in an ambulance in a body bag, being in hospital and healthcare staff not coming near them. Because, like, if we were frightened, how was everybody else? So you can see how this all escalated and got out of control. You know, as Juliet said, with, you know, tombstones and icebergs and this blame culture and all this ignorance and fear.
Deep gratitude for those who dared to stand up, who dared to stand by. For me, it was a costly choice. But with some regrets and pain, it's for those who went for the easy option. And that's what we are talking about. The blame, the labeling, the not in my backyard attitude. What did that yield for anyone or for the world? Apart from fear, stigma, discrimination, and widening the gap of inequality. And that is what is still preventing some from coming forward to test.
And brought out like the activist in me to think I have a responsibility of not just my generation to still make sure that we remember the past, learn and reflect, and also celebrate the progression.
Immense amount of satisfaction when, you know, a good 10 years or more later, when we started seeing medicines that actually worked, you know, the antiretrovirals. I have a lot of pride that I was involved in I was a tiny little wheel in a cog in a very large wheel. My role was probably fairly unimportant, but it was very satisfying to have actually been part of, hopefully, a bit of the solution.
With the majority of the work that we do at Trades are working with men who have sex with men, with a lot of those men actually identifying as heterosexual and maybe being in heterosexual marriages, access to testing has become even harder. As where we would go into the community to be able to deliver that, and we would go to the locations where they would be. Now those locations have gone or they've been closed, and actually it's created then a barrier for those communities to be able to access the support and services which they had done in the past. And would they access online services? More than likely not, because actually it takes away the element of the community work, as Juliet has touched upon as well, about us going into the community to be able to deliver that and taking the services to where they're really needed, as opposed to turning the model around now to getting people to go to the services. And I think it could be counterproductive going forward, but I think it's definitely like a new era of learning in comparison to like when the HIV epidemic first started. Now we've got the joys of technology, but actually the joys could also come as a burden for some people too. So it's about finding that balance between doing the best thing for everybody, but also still providing that
solidarity as the world has never known before. And this solidarity is from individuals, communities, and institutions who believed in joining hands together to fight against a common evil.
Oh, technology, technology, technology. Is it just me or does 2020 feel like we're constantly buffering? Finally, it worked. Okay, guys, use World AIDS Day as your annual reminder to get tested for HIV. Remember, it's the 1st of December every year. Oh, hello, girls, guys, and non-binaries. Visit tradesexualhealth.com to order your free postal test kit, where along with HIV, you can get tested for syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea, right in the comfort of your own home. It's never been easier to do. Don't feel you're by yourself when getting tested. If you need additional support, please contact Trade by calling 0116 254 1747 or dropping an email to info@tradesexualhealth.com.
Welcome back. According to the latest Public Health England figures from 2019, it was estimated that there are 105,200 people living with HIV in the UK, with 1,439 people being newly diagnosed last year. Of those living with HIV, 94% know that they have a HIV positive diagnosis, meaning that there are still around 6,400 people who have HIV but don't know that they have the virus. This makes raising awareness of HIV still more important than ever. Although new diagnoses have continued to decline over the past decade, 43% of those were diagnosed late, and on average had undiagnosed HIV for around 3 to 5 years, increasing the risk of ill health, early death and onward transmission of HIV. Late diagnosis remains an issue across Leicester City, with over half of new diagnoses being late, especially amongst the historically higher risk communities, such as those of Black African heritage, that are also testing less frequently. Leicester City also remains within the highest HIV diagnosed prevalence rates across the East Midlands, at just below 4 per 1,000, which keeps Leicester City as a high prevalence area. However, early diagnosis through regular testing can prevent late diagnosis, and there are other tools available such as post-exposure prophylaxis or PEP if you feel you have put yourself at risk of HIV exposure within 72 hours, but also pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP, which can be used in a way of preventing HIV from ever being acquired. With PrEP in mind, I'm happy to announce that the rollout of PrEP across Leicester and Leicestershire will start from today through Leicester Sexual Health's Haymarket Clinic. Although the rollout will start from today, those who have been enrolled on the PrEP Impact trial locally will be contacted over the next few weeks in the first instance, and then wider enrolment will be available shortly afterwards. To join the waiting list, you can call Leicester Sexual Health on 0300 124 0102 during their usual opening hours, which can be found on their website, leicestersexualhealth.nhs.uk.
Hope by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops us all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm, that could abash the little bird that keeps so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land, and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Thank you for joining us for this year's Red Ribbon Remembrance event for World AIDS Day 2020. I can't go on without thanking the team behind this year's event. We've got two great volunteers from Trade. So we've got Rocco and Brad. So I just want to show you their faces to show you the brains and the beauty behind this year's Red Ribbon Remembrance. So I'm going to start with Rocco. So Rocco, what have you got any reflections on how this year's World AIDS Day events have gone and kind of how you found the process?
Well, when you initially approached me, I wasn't really sure about the whole digital aspect. I do use technology and digital stuff all the time, but I've always volunteered in a face-to-face, person-to-person kind of environmental kind of situation. So digital to me was like a bit of a cop-out, but it has been really, really good with an equal impact, I would say. And it's got me up out of bed, sometimes when I haven't wanted to get up out of bed, and it's given me purpose again. And yeah, I can't wait to hear feedback, and it's been great. It's been great collaborating with Trade once again, and all of you.
It's great, cool, thanks. And Brad, you're one of our newer volunteers to Trade. So World AIDS Day was kind of your first project with Trade. So how did you find the whole experience?
Yeah, this has been my first project with Trade, so it's exciting but also strange that my first sort of interaction with Trade is online and digitally. You know, we haven't been able to get together and, you know, have these, you know, our meetings have been in this format. So that's been quite strange, is being so involved in something and not actually seeing the people face to face. But it's been exciting, like Rocco said, to have something to focus on and to sort of get you going during these times. And actually, you know, feeling quite proud of what, you know, we've managed to do, like with all the difficulties and last minute changes and stuff with everything that's going on. And hopefully it'll have an even greater impact this year and reach a wider audience, because people are more focused online and people can't go out and engage as much in person. So yeah, it's been a great first experience with Trade. Slightly different, but still really great.
That's awesome, great. Rocco, Brad, thank you once again for your help as being part of the World AIDS Day planning team this year. And yeah, I hope you can continue volunteering with us and for future projects going forward. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's it for this year's Red Ribbon Remembrance event brought to you by Trade Sexual Health. We hope that you've enjoyed this evening and had some time to reflect and learn. I'd like to thank you all for joining us, and I'd like to thank the whole team behind this year's Red Ribbon Remembrance event. As you just saw before, Brad and Rocco as part of the World AIDS Day planning team. And here with me, I've got Paul and Salim from Trade Sexual Health helping to run behind the scenes to making sure that this event could happen. So from me to you, a very good evening and enjoy the rest of your night. Good night.